S&P, basically saying don't go overboard on spending or stimulus.
Yep.
Need to pay down this debt.
Yep.
That's important for the credit rating.
Yep.
Is that a little bit of a in the column for the government and its approach?
No, because no one suggests that the government should spend so much money that they're not on track to achieve a surplus this year.
Wouldn't be far off if you
The Reserve Bank hasn't been
Start.
suggesting that, for example. Well, no, the answer is you could choose to increase New Start at a rate which meant that the surplus was still protected, but nonetheless acted as a stimulating effect. And in fact, the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank yesterday, when asked about increasing New Start, said that it obviously would be a good thing in terms of putting cash into the economy. But he also pointed out that it would have a participation benefit. In other words, it'd help people who are currently unemployed to find work as well. And of course, you know, the 3 Ps, of which participation is one of the prime levers of economic growth that helps drive growth.
But this is a message of caution about protecting the
absolutely.
surplus,
it's about not
actually paying off debt. And something like the thing with New Start is it's a structural change. It's baked in spending.
Yeah, but you also need to remember that the surpluses that the government have got, if you believe the budget papers, are structural as well, in the sense that they build over time.
But if you put that, you could be talking about, you know, $30 billion over 10 years if you increase New Start. And
well, we just paid for that in tax cuts, so what's your point?
Well, it's more though, and this all comes out of...
No, it's less than the value of the tax cuts.
No, what I'm saying, it's more money. It's $30 billion more that you're not paying off in debt. That's significant money.
As I said, you do not necessarily need to increase New Start by the full amount overnight. You could choose to phase in the increase over time, just as the tax cuts, for example, are phased in over time. And as I said, you know, you can take the advice of the Reserve Bank. It actually has a productivity benefit in terms of participation in the economy. That seems like a pretty good thing.
Political gold here for the government, or does the average person not log on to ratings agency S&P? Or maybe they're a bit sceptical after they were asleep at the wheel before the GFC, Kerry. What do you think?
Look, I don't think it is a #1 consideration for most people when they're going to vote as to whether the S&P have decided that, you know, we need to keep our credit rating at high, and they're giving us advice about how to do it. I do think it actually does feed into the government's narrative, though, that a third-party independent group is suggesting that the approach they're taking to actually trying to keep us in surplus, increasing surpluses, paying down debt, is actually in the overall benefit of the country over the longer term. So I think as a political message, it works for the government. I accept Simon's concerns about New Start. I think that they have been reflected by a whole lot of people, including, for example, as we know, John Howard. So I would hope that the government in its budget next year would have some consideration about what they do about New Start, at the same time keeping an eye on that surplus.
Nearly out of time, but this is the other thing we might hear a lot from the government. The interest bill that we've got right now, I think it's in the order of $14 or $16 billion.
19, to be precise.
There you go. That we're going to hear a lot more about that as a justification of we really need to tackle this problem now. Just trying to make it a bit more tangible, I guess, for people, rather than this the figure that's so high you feel as though, well, why bother even trying to pay it off? The interest bill might hit home better.
Well, if you're asking me, Tom, if I was the government, I would be translating the interest bill into what it is per capita and saying, as a political message, this is what we're paying at the moment per person in this country. The whole approach of the government is to actually reduce that, because you're right, 19 billion people can't get their head around it. But if they actually know what that means, how much I would be paying, you know, basically how much I would be paying to pay that bill, then it becomes a very potent political message. So, not that anyone ever takes my advice on advertising campaigns, but I'd be thinking about one of those at the moment.